record. All right. Woohoo, everybody. Good afternoon or good evening. And I guess some of our friends are going to be, oh man, we got people from the Canary Islands already on with us. Yeah. Hi, Kati. We're going to have people from Australia and around in Europe and all over the world. This is exciting and awesome. Hey, everybody. Adam, Marissa, how you guys doing? Good to see you. Oh, man. This is so fun. We're so excited. And thanks, man, we got a bunch of people showing up all over the place. Got to stay in this camera. We got 3 cameras going right now, you guys. This is going to be fun times. Keep this party going.
Okay, our question. So
Fire.
First question.
Ready? Go.
No, what did you say it was?
Oh, man. So I was going to ask, is it enough? I got all kinds of good questions, you guys.
Predominant emotion.
Okay, let's do that one. All right. So number one question, start us off. What is your predominant emotion?
Especially or specifically when it comes to parenting.
What do you feel most of the time? So just let that sink in for a second and then respond. You can throw it in the chat box.
And
so
why it's so important.
There's chat on, if you're with us on Facebook or on Instagram or in the Zoom room, just throw it in the chat. Hysterical. Oh, nice. The most common emotion, hysterical. Frustration is another one. I think somebody put lagging heavy, but I don't think that's the emotion. I think they're just saying your video's lagging. But some of us probably feel like we're lagging emotionally. Nice. My son told me to say joy. Awesome. Yeah, because, well, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
We're going to talk about all of this.
Like,
talk about why this is important and how it relates to parenting.
Can I just throw down right now? Your kids want you to be happy.
Can I just throw down right now? You better be prepared because Greg has been.
I am on one today, you guys. So if
it's coming.
If I let it fly today, please know how much love it's coming with. But I'm on one today. You're gonna hear from Mr. Denning today, my friends. I love being a mom. Don't love parenting. Overwhelmed is how I'm feeling about parenting, which is a very common one. Thanks for sharing that.
Parental fatigue.
Ooh, that's good. You guys are so good with words. Frustration, powerless, peace, optimistic about the systems we have more time to work on. Yeah. Nice. This is super good. Time to work on. Yeah, we got time. We all got time, don't we? We got time to work on things. But it's interesting, you guys, we want to be happy and jovial and joyful. But it's interesting, some of us have a default emotion that we kind of slip into. And in fact, I do this when I'm going through coaching, right? We'll talk about being joyful and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I wanted to be happy. I should set an alarm to remind myself to be joyful, right? And it's true, we all do this. Like, let's do that. Throw the emotion in the chat box that you want to have most of the time. And this can change. Sometimes you'll want to be peaceful. Sometimes you want to be calm. Sometimes you want to be determined or enthusiastic. But it's interesting that instead of having joy be our default, like we're just joyful, we wake up joyful and we just go through life joyful, and something happens, the kids do something annoying and you're like, oh, that threw me off, and oh, I'm back to joyful. But instead it's like, some of us are like going through life all grumpy, and then we're like, oh yeah, I forgot I should be happy. Happy moment, right? And my invitation is, let's switch things up, you guys. Let's switch things up so the predominant emotion is the good one. So let's see, there's good stuff coming in here. Okay, calm, cheerful, hysterically joyful. You guys are so good with these words. I love it. Peace, calmness, happy, graceful. Nice. Excited. Yeah, we often feel like we're never caught up, right? We feel like we're always behind and running like that. All right, so let's dive in. So tonight, my friends, we are going to talk a lot. Oh, nice. The husband says content. Attaboy. Hi from West Virginia. Nice. Oh, sorry. So you just got your audio going. The question was, we asked two different questions. What do you feel most of the time? What's your predominant emotion? And what would you like to feel most of the time? Nice. Got another comment here. Grateful to be called to serve as a mother of children. And it is, you guys, it's a calling. It's so powerful. Who are sent to help me learn, yes, and I'm doing my best to raise them with love and light and be like Jesus. Oh, it's awesome. Often overwhelmed too with so much going on in a good way, and sometimes stress, right? Yeah. So today we're diving in, and we even have kids watching in, so they are going to hold you guys accountable. So when we give you good parenting advice and the kids are watching, they'll be like, I heard that. You better like hold up to it. So we're going to share all kinds of great strategies. And Rachel and I have been studying this for years. We were learning about parenting before we even were parents. And we want to share some of the things we've learned in our wanderings around the world. And we want your questions.
Yes.
And we want your comments. We want tons of participation.
So get your questions ready. We love questions, and we love specific questions.
And let's dialogue this stuff. And again, okay, I got to throw this out. You guys know how much I love you, right? Because I love you. But tonight, you're going to get some of it because it's just been growing. So if I just start throwing down, you're like, oh, that was a love punch from Greg.
And you can ask them at any time.
Yeah, you can ask any questions all along the way. We'll go. All right. Whoa! So I did a quick video kind of introducing this topic, and I asked the question of, is there power in your parenting? It's a really great question to consider. And I have to revisit it, and I invite you to revisit it. Is there power in your parenting? Or sometimes I think, like maybe many of us do this, we'll slip into you kind of going through the motions.
Well, I was going to add that especially right now, in this time of crisis.
I can't parent. I have to watch the news.
I think that in some ways, for a lot of people, it's becoming more evident, because this is kind of what happened to us when we started traveling. I remember very vividly one day I think we were probably in an airport or something, piles of luggage. We started traveling when we had small kids, like 4 kids under the age of 4. And then, we were taking flights with all these small kids that are like 6 and under.
It was crazy.
I remember very vividly this moment of my parenting is on display. Like, a lot of us get to parent in our house, right? Where we don't have people watching us.
Parent in isolation.
Right? And I realized my parenting is on display. I'm taking my children out into the world. My deficiencies in parenting are becoming obvious to me, and they're becoming obvious to the people around me, whether they're on the plane or in the line or, just wherever my children happen to have a meltdown, which on one side is like, okay, you don't worry about that. But on the other side, for me, what it came down to is like, how can I improve my parenting so that these situations become less common, not necessarily for the stranger's sake, but for my own sake, right? I want my parenting to be better so that I can manage the inevitable challenges of parenting, right? And when it is on display, that's one thing. And I guess that's what I'm kind of getting to, is that now a lot of us are kind of facing that moment of, here we are, home 24/7, right, with each other, and we're realizing, whoa, there's a lot of deficiencies that need to be addressed and like handled and dealt with, right? That maybe we didn't see as much before because we're going to work, we're going to school, we're hanging out with our friends.
Or trying to outsource some parenting, right? We're like, oh, go here and go there. And now we don't have any of those options. So it's back on us.
Yeah. So it really is an opportunity for us. So, and I took that time, that was early on in our traveling. And I really took that to heart. And I decided that I was going to become better at parenting, and it gave me the opportunity to improve. And it, from there, I've been able to level up with learning different strategies and techniques and things that help parenting to go smoother, because there really are things that just help it go better. And they're not like specific little techniques or strategies or, little whatever. They're principles. And we talked about this last time, and I'm going to revisit it really quick in case there were people who didn't hear it, because last week we talked about this. And it's the whole skydiving analogy, right? When Greg went skydiving, he's been twice. And they said, no matter what, if you are falling, it doesn't matter if you're flipping and doing twists or whatever, you can at any time put out your arms and arch your back, and you'll flatten out, whatever they call it, right? And I think that's true with a lot of things in life, but we often are not aware of them. We don't know that there's things like that that actually save us in our parenting or in our marriage or in our business or whatever it is. And so that's the key. We need to discover what they are and learn what they are so that we can, no matter what's going on, the chaos, the pandemic, all of the stuff that's going on, we can go whoop and find our center, find our grounding, and have something that weathers us through all of those storms, if that makes sense. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in. A couple of key parts I really think matter is, you guys, we have to begin with the end in mind. We really genuinely have to begin with the end in mind. Holy cute kids. Hi, little cute people. Oh, I love little babies. Oh, you guys are the best. We have to begin with the end in the mind. So let me think for a minute. Rant part A. You know it's good when I got part A, B, C. I might use the whole alphabet tonight. Rant part A is that there's a lot of just really good intentioned parenting advice out there that only is superficial. It's literally putting an external Band-Aid on an internal problem.
Symptom management.
It's symptom management. They're just trying to take care of the symptom. They're like, hey, this is really annoying me. What kind of parenting technique can I use? And we slap a Band-Aid on it, and they're like, oh, that brought a little bit of relief. But it's not fixing the big problem, and it's not contributing to the big end result that we're actually looking for, right? So there's this big contrast between just dealing with symptoms or seeking out an end result, like something.
Holistic healing is what I like to compare it to.
Right. It's a whole body healing, the whole person. Like, you're trying to raise these kids that become just superb human beings. You guys with me? So there's a big difference between like temporary, superficial little tips and tricks. Did I say that right? Yeah, tips and tricks. I was right.
Tricks
I could catch myself. And then like big end result thinking. So with that question, or with that statement, I want to ask you a question. What is your end result thinking? Like, what's your big picture? What do you want your children to be like? Some of you right now might be like, Dennings, I don't care about, my kids might not make it to adulthood if I kill them this week, right? And I get it. You're like, just help me survive today. I get it. But my point is, and our point is, if we put in the big strategies, like, it helps us get through the days and actually starts making the days really easy and enjoyable.
I think the point is, again, if you're not focusing on Band-Aid solutions, having the big vision, the big picture of what you want, the family culture you're trying to create, the adults you're trying to raise, that actually helps you in your day-to-day interactions and strategies and all of those things. Like, that is where the internal healing, if we're making this comparison here, the symptoms and the Band-Aids and the actual internal healing of the family, the individual, the child, the parent, whoever needs the healing, which a lot of times what happens is, what's really going on in our families is that there's some sort of healing that needs to happen. If we're having arguments, if we're having fighting, if we're having issues with the children that won't listen and they are out of control and all these things, some sort of healing needs to take place. That is the real solution to parenting. It might be mental healing, physical healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing. It could be any of those things, but that is the real thing that's going wrong. It's not some technique that you're missing out on. It's that something is not whole, either in you or in your child or in the family culture, because the family culture itself is almost its own entity. Like there's actually, I read something once that this gets a little deep, but there's actually multiple dynamics within a family, because there's the relationship with there's you, and then there's your spouse, and there's a relationship between you two, and then there's the relationship between you and your child and each of your children, and your spouse's relationship between each of your children. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, right? And the problems that we face in our family are often when something is off in one of those dynamics, if that makes sense. So when we're trying to heal our family, with the end goal being cooperation, peace, responsibility, account, all the things we want, right? Those are all the things we want. The answer is healing. Does that make sense? It's a lot deeper than we want it to be. We want it to be, oh, do this, time out, spanking, whatever. You have this talk with them. We want it to be some simple, easy, this is how you apply it, ABC, and you're done type thing. But it's not that simple.
Every once in a while it is. Every once in a while it's something simple, but usually I love that framework she's talking about. If you're having a chronic problem with one of your children, or a chronic problem in parenting, it just keeps happening. Don't throw up your hands and say, well, this is the way that kid is, or this is the way parenting is. Stop and say, is there something that needs to heal? Now, let me give you a concrete example, right? With little people. So in my coaching, it comes up a lot. I'm usually I coach moms and dads, but mostly dads on the one-on-one coaching. And what happens is, like, I ask the dads, I'm like, hey, when do you become unpleasant as a parent? In fact, let me ask you guys that, just for kicks and giggles. Is there a time of day or a moment where you become unpleasant as the parent? Just throw that in there. Let's see. Out of curiosity,
seeing your questions coming in. That's great.
And comments. We'll get to those.
Don't worry.
But it's interesting. A lot of dads will be like, oh man, bedtime after dinner, and it's time to get ready for bed. It's like this epic battle with toddlers, right? Toddlers are just notorious. They do not want to go to bed. Like bath time, bed, they're like the resistance. Like they just want to go into mutiny, right?
We're getting a couple of those bedtime potty accidents right before church.
Yeah.
When I cook dinner. Yeah.
And the kids are complaining about the food. Oh man. Okay, I gotta share this. After 7 p.m. and before 7 a.m., right? Because you got your schedule. I just forgot about this. Rachel will know because she just constantly tried to remind me. You guys, when you try overlanding with a family, meaning you're driving from Alaska all the way to Panama,
and you're living in your truck.
That kind of overlanding, and your little ones need to stop to go to the bathroom every 10 minutes after you just stopped at the bathroom, right?
Because they're all under the age of 6.
And when we first started, I would just come unglued. So I would just be like, no, I'm not stopping again. And it used to bother me so bad, and I would become the very unpleasant guy, right? It was embarrassing and sad. But we do that. We get frustrated. And so what I wanted to share was,
my kids have made a huge mess. I'm working.
Yeah. And they then sit around while I continue to work and cook dinner.
So he never sees me when I'm not mad. Yeah.
Yep.
And then that's a great question.
The power struggles.
I'm trying to be in a meeting with the tenants.
Right now. And the kids keep interrupting. Yes.
Interruptions in conversations. Yes, that drives me crazy.
Or Rachel just said that when I'm trying to think deeply and she gets pulled out of her depth. Have you guys seen that movie about Charles Dickens?
The man who invented Christmas.
And he's trying to write.
Him writing the Christmas Carol, right? And he literally is creating these characters in his head, and he's having these conversations with him in the movie. And then he'll get interrupted. There'll be a knock on the door or something, and he'll be like,
It's like, no,
stop interrupting me. I'm like, I feel like that. Yeah. And so now I tell that to my kids. I'm like, that's how I feel. Don't interrupt me when I'm in the middle of my
you're
creating.
pulling me back from another world. But like one example of this, and I think it's a perfect example, is sometimes, let's say in the evening, let's say it's evening time with a younger child, and the behavior starts to get out of control. Maybe they're throwing things, maybe they're picking fights or teasing each other, maybe there's more crying, more resistance. And what's interesting right there is you'll have a little one start acting up. And our first response is, oh man, not okay. And we're going to use our barking voice, or we're going to give the dad lecture to a 3-year-old. Like, totally doesn't work, fellas. That one does not work. And we kind of think, well, you're going to be in timeout. I'm going to spank your bum. Like, there's going to be consequences for this. And I think in those moments, the perfect thing to do is to lean into that situation and see it with the context that Rachel was talking about of like healing, and it works like magic. You go grab the little one and you actually give them some attention, and we'll stop now. We didn't used to do this. Like, we used to like, okay, you're going to get in trouble. And we'd actually make the situation worse. We'd actually aggravate it. And then we realized, wait a minute, what's being expressed is symptom of a problem that needs to be healed. So now our automatic response is, oh, let's go touch, calm, have them sit on our lap. Let's go hug them. Let's see if they need a little drink, a little snack, and a little time and attention. And a problem that was really starting to get out of hand, all of a sudden just melts into a special moment.
Because often what's happening, and I think this is a good concrete example, is that we've seen from our own experience and working with people, is that something like that, there's usually some maybe unexpressed emotion or need, or make sure to save that, or some other unfulfilled thing, right? Like we're talking about this healing. There's something not being met that they don't know how to express, especially when they're small. They could have fear. They could have uncertainty. They could just know, like, maybe they're just reading off you. Like, oh, it's bedtime and now mom's all upset. And they're feeding that back of like, oh, she's upset. I'm going to be upset too. Like, it's time to be upset. You know what I mean? Or it could be, maybe they're hungry. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they just need to have more expectation. This works so well with small kids too, is that just having some sort of like, well, first we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. Then it becomes like expected, and it's easier to go with the flow. Or you have at least closure. I know a lot of my younger kids, they like to have closure. They want to close off what they're doing first and then move into the next thing. And if we just try to take them like, okay, you're doing that, but we're done now, we're going to bedtime, it creates this.
Oh man, they hate that.
Yeah, they really hate that. It creates these unmet or unclosed feelings that they don't know how to resolve. So again, we could talk a lot about this, but I think it's a good illustration of many of the different challenges we might face. This could be with teenagers or toddlers or, the middles, of there's some underlying issue that we have to learn how to resolve and address, rather than just having some sort of hard and fast parenting technique that we come down with, and that's the answer to whatever it is we're dealing with.
Or being really reactive.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets tricky, okay, with the approach that we take to parenting. As people, we want to have some sort of thing that this is what I do all the time. I always give a timeout and it works 100% of the time. But that's not the nature of parenting, and that's not the nature of raising another human being. We are complex people as parents, right? And our children are all complex individuals. And every situation is also different and unique. So you really have to learn to have a lot of intuition, diplomacy. I love to talk about diplomacy because I literally believe that, like, if you think of a diplomat, right? We've traveled to lots of countries and we've interacted with people that work in the embassy, and being a diplomat is you're the person who goes to deal with conflict resolution between nations, right? It requires a lot of diplomacy to be a parent, and to learn those skills is not easy, right? It's not some, hey, ABC, here's what you do. It requires a lot from you as the parent.
Well, and a whole different mindset. Instead of, a lot of parenting is like, look, I'm the boss.
And
right? Have you guys?
Diplomacy is not like that at all.
Have you ever done that? You're like, no, I'm the boss around here. This is the way things are gonna go, okay? Because I say so. And I love to think. I saw this sign one day in a restaurant. It says, "People are people, no matter how small." And I immediately thought of children. And I'm like, wait a minute, this little toddler is a full person. Except they don't know how to express their feelings or communicate.
Right.
And
but
so
they have all the feelings.
But they have them all, and they want respect and they want autonomy. And so if we can be diplomatic, whoa, it is transformational. If we treat them like humans, they love it. But it requires more of us.
Right. And I think that that's one of the strategies and approaches we've always taken, is that we have always viewed our children as people, and we've treated them as such, even though that requires more of us on our end. Because when I'm interacting with an adult, the way I behave, the words I use, the explanations I give, the way I try to influence them or convince them, that's going to be very different than often how we treat or talk to our children. Does that make sense? A lot of times when we talk to our kids, it's like, well, do this because I said, and that's why. And we expect them to obey simply because we are the adult and they are the child. Where we've taken a different approach with that of, okay, I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to negotiate with you. I'm going to convince you. I am going to answer your questions. And I'm going to respect your rebellion, your no's, your, whatever it is. I'm going to respect that. And if I can't convince you in a way that makes sense to you, and this sounds ridiculous, but this is what I do. If I can't convince you, then I'm not a very good negotiator or a very good diplomat. My skills are lacking. I have to, and I've done this before, like my kids will be like, why do I have to do sentence diagramming, right? Because I homeschool my kids too. Why do I have to do that? Like, that's just a waste. And in my mind, if I can't articulate to my 13-year-old why he should do sentence diagramming, I guess he doesn't need to do it, because I don't know why, and I can't explain it. And for me to just say, well, you just need to do it just because, that's not good enough for me. So then I have to go do my research and learn about it, and then figure out how I can say it in a way that it actually makes sense to him, so that he says,
it's relevant.
Oh,
you make it relevant.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I guess I'll do sentence diagramming. And now that son of mine, he is like the grammar king right now. Like, he is just rocking grammar. But do you get it? Like, it's not just this, hey, do it because I say so, or because you have to get the grade. Like, we don't do grades. And so our kids, that never works. But because if you don't, you'll get bad grades, or because of this. Like, we always make it real. Like, as real as it would need to be for us. If we're going to do something, I want to know why I'm doing it. And that's the same respect I have for my kids. My 17-year-old was just helping me straighten my hair right before here. And she's like, you know what, Mom? Do you know what I love? This was kind of cool. She's talking, because I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to be talking about parenting. And she was like, do you know what I love? Is that your guys' rules make sense. She's like, you don't just come up with these rules just because, like, you actually have these rules that I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And that was cool to hear from her, right? Because she's just like most teenagers, she's kicked back on some of the rules before.
And wants to be very
And
independent.
wants to be independent. But ultimately, I always follow this principle. If they kick back, fine. I'm going to convince them why they should choose to follow the rules.
Which requires us as parents to increase our persuasion skills and our influence skills.
And our diplomacy. I was literally doing this today with my 6-year-old because she was like, school's boring. I don't want to do school. It's boring. I'm having this conversation, okay? She's 6. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the reasons. These are the reasons you should want to do school. This is, and I'm going through all the things. And part of her is like, no, that's dumb. But the point is, it gets her thinking. And it doesn't mean tomorrow she's going to get up and be like, yeah, I'm doing school. But as we have this ongoing conversation, eventually she comes to the conclusion, yeah, I should do school. And not all of school is boring. And there's parts of it I like, and on and on. Now, again, this is with one small aspect of parenting with one child. And I have 7 kids, right? And to do this over and over again with dating and cell phone usage and preparing meals and doing your chores and, go on and on and on for everything that happens in family life. It's more work. It is more work. I'm not going to lie. But the results
is awesome.
Are here. Okay? I will not kid you on this. And anyone who knows my kids can vouch for this. My kids stand out. They're up here. They're mature. They're responsible. I don't want to totally brag. I do, but I don't. This just works because we're focusing on the end result. Who are the adults we're trying to create and mold? Not that we can. We're molding, we're mentoring, we're guiding. Who are these adults that we're working to mold and mentor, right? And when you take that principle-based approach, that's the end result. Anyways, enough of that.
Woo, I love it. I love it. Which goes into the comments that were up here before of like, you guys answered, what do you want them to be like as adults? And awesome stuff coming in here. Like, wait, where was it? I'm trying to find it. And now it's lost. Oh man, great comment there, Heather, about toddlers and teens. They're both going through massive brain transformations, like literally having massive brain transformations, both at the same time. I lost all this. I did read the comments though; they were so good.
Answer the questions.
I want my kids to be self-reliant.
Yes.
Oh, I love this. Have a vision of when the kids are all grown up and they come back for Christmas or Thanksgiving. What do we want those relationships to be like?
Exactly.
That.
Greg and I literally we spend time talking about our grandkids and our kids and their spouses and what that's going to be like and how what we're creating now is going to be influencing that. And we talk about that with our kids. Like the big picture thinking, we're creating a legacy here. We're not just raising our kids. We're not just trying to feed them every day and get them clean and have them obey some rules and go to school and learn some stuff. That's not what we're doing. We are literally thinking generationally here. What is the legacy? What is the Denning legacy that we are creating? And that's the approach we take to our daily interactions with our kids.
Yeah. I know this is big time. And some of you are like, I just needed a little technique for when my kids break their toys.
Give that to you because you have to have the big picture, if that makes sense.
And you guys know this, and you're awesome parents, and you're doing great. You're rocking it. And this is so cute. I see some of you like literally being mauled by your kids while we're talking about this stuff. But like we all have to think bigger. And have like a big old vision of like, let's work on the things that really will make a generational difference, right? Okay, are you guys ready for rant B?
Before the question?
Yeah, because I've been waiting for this one. Oh man. Rant B is very fitting right now, rant B. A lot of us, we use this word baby steps. And when
Give some context here before you talk about the baby
Well,
steps.
what context?
About the interview you did today.
Well, but it happens all the time.
Okay,
So
but it's
all
a
the time.
perfect
You
example,
guys, any of you who follow me or watch any of my stuff, you know how I go. I'm like gangbuster. Like I'm all in, right? Let's just go with this. I'm never like, how about we try step A and step B, make a few adjustments. I'm like, no, let's tear down the whole thing and rebuild. Let's go, right? And it's not like I'm going to trickle feed anything out. I'm going to turn on the fire hose and be like, buckle up. This is going to be delicious, right? You know how I approach life. And I love this. And so I'll do a presentation right now and we'll share something, or Rachel and I will share something like this. And we're giving all this big stuff. And
which this happened today.
Somebody is brave enough afterwards to be like, well, couldn't we just take a couple of baby steps? You know, that all seems a bit much, a little overwhelming. One time we did this whole thing on marriage. And they're like, well,
we were
Dennings,
creating our marriage course.
It was our whole marriage course.
Creating
We're like,
an extraordinary marriage course.
Like, make your marriage amazing. And this guy was like, well, isn't there something we could do? Could you give me just like the bare minimum?
Bare minimum strategy. Like, what are the bare minimum?
Like, dude, I can tell you're already doing the bare minimum.
And what I thought was, you're missing the point. You're doing the bare minimum. That's why you have what you have, because you're doing the bare minimum. If you want extraordinary, it takes extraordinary effort.
So then today it happens again. Again, I love you guys. I love all of you. I love everyone. I'm genuine. I love you. And you're so sweet. I understand the overwhelm. I've been there and I get it. Like,
yes,
we get it. We get it. We've traveled with our kids. We've been there. Okay.
We have been in overwhelm many
times.
So
people say, well, Greg, can't we just do some baby steps? And I've heard that so many times. I just kind of snapped today. I got off the call. I went upstairs in the kitchen. I'm like, I'm done with people and their baby steps. Like, baby steps are for babies. Like, when are we going to be adults and take some big steps, people? And I was just kind of ranting and going off. But like, the point is like, wait a minute. Yeah, we can do baby steps. I get it. And sometimes, look, if you're a new mom, like, I get it. Baby steps. Like, hold on. Necessary. If you're dealing with health problems or other issues, I get it. Sometimes you're like, look, all I can do today is be conscious, right? Just be happy with that. I get it. But for the most part, you guys, let's take some big kid steps. Let's get some big kid results here and like get off the porch and go, because we want bigger results, not baby results.
And I think this is something I want to point out that's a very key, I don't know if I want to say ingredient or piece to the success that we have had in our life and in our family, is that it's because we have, even if we've been afraid or overwhelmed, we've embraced and taken the big steps, right? Despite the overwhelm, despite the fear, despite everything else, like sometimes to the point of, yeah, you guys are crazy, right? It's because we've done that we've seen the results in our life. We have what we have in our family, in our finances, in our lifestyle, because we've taken the big steps. We didn't just baby step into it. And that seems overwhelming at first from wherever you're starting. And we've been there. It seems overwhelming. Like, how can you even do that? How can I do more? I'm already doing so much. But as you take the big steps, you actually increase your capacity and your capability to do more.
And
so you become more capable.
That's, my friends, that's when the magic comes back in your marriage. That's when the power comes back into your parenting.
And everything else.
That's when things get real, like we love to say around our house here. Things just got real, right? And I love this. Okay, Adam and Marissa, you guys, they got rid of their TV 3 months ago. Boom, that's like a big step, right? I went and I presented at this place. And I was like, guys, I'm going to throw this out there. I went and presented at this conference. And I was like, get rid of your TV. And people balked. But then a few people a week later sent me pictures. Like, we got rid of the TV, threw up a bookshelf, changed our lives, right? And if you're willing to take these steps of like, you know what? Done. We're doing it.
The
crazy stuff, right?
And
you're like, what? And now a lot of you homeschool, right? And you're like, I'm pulling my kids out of school. And in fact, all of you just got forced into homeschooling. Woohoo! Like, you're all part of the crazy now, right? But we just do big stuff. And we start getting some big results. Now, it doesn't always work out great, but we start making things happen, right? Love this stuff. Yes, TV died, decide not to get another one. Boom, book time, right? I love this. Yeah, Wade, I'm a mountain mover. At least I like to think I am. Jody, big picture person. Love it. You guys. Okay, let's hit some questions.
Yes.
Good questions coming in here.
Scroll
More? Even more?
up.
We're going back up to the top.
Yeah, we gotta do it.
Wait, how far?
Keep going.
Going.
We missed a lot.
Wait for it. I think the first question was right there. This one. How can you figure out what needs to be healed?
Okay.
Right. I feel like we have a power struggle every day, and we have parenting systems in place, but the teenager really fights it. We remove TV from the house. Don't bring sugar. Yeah. You guys, like, I'm doing the sugar research, and Rachel's now doing it with me. Like, get that stuff out of your house. There's a big one. Okay. I'm ready for a big one. No baby steps here.
Yeah.
I want to challenge all of you to remove refined sugar from your lives. There you go. I did it. Sorry, not sorry. That's going to be my theme.
But this, I don't even know if I should go the next level on that. That's right there.
That's enough. We love you. Oh, yeah. He's even got the sign. Yes. Just do it. Just try it. Even if you introduce it like, hey, guys, we're going to do a sugar fast. Watch what happens to your body. Well, as you have a reaction to it first, withdrawals, as all of you are like twitching. And you're going to be like, wow, we had an addiction.
And there are replacements, so it's not like you can't have anything sweet again in your life. There's replacements.
But that matters. So yeah, screen time down, sugars down, simple carbohydrates down, and you might have to work through things. So how do you know it needs to be healed? Boom. Awesome question. So if this were me, my child, I'm just going to go in my mind here. You guys can go with me into my mind palace.
First of all, I think that's partly just the age. That's what they do.
True.
This is just a stage they have to go through. It's not personal. It's not like they don't like you.
She did not want to hear that.
It's not that they don't like you. It's not necessarily that your parenting is bad. Stop your corona cough. Okay?
Corona cough.
That's just the stage. At some point, and it's different ages for different kids, they're just going to go through this stage of, I don't want to and you can't make me.
Which
normal.
Is biological.
Don't take it personally.
It's not personal.
When they say that, I'm like, okay. But guess what? Here's how it works in our house.
She said, I'm going to call your dad. He's going to come downstairs.
Here's the thing. Whenever I implement something new in my house, I don't just like, well, these are the rules, especially right in the moment. Like they ask me for something and it's a new rule that I want to make. That's not the time to implement it. I always set it up. So if I'm going to start charts or some sort of like you have to earn using the internet or your device or whatever it is, I always set it up first. So we have some sort of meeting, right?
Usually she and I will talk about it.
We talk about it
the night
first.
Before. We kind of hash it all out.
Maybe we'll come up with a story we're going to tell or something to illustrate the principle.
Somewhere or a movie. We'll even watch a movie.
Yeah.
Like we'll come up with the perfect movie and like, oh, that's going to teach this principle. And then we'll stop and be like, what happened right there? And they're like, well, this and this and that. And you're like, yeah. Does that ever happen in families? And they're like, yeah, that's messed up. And we're like, does it ever happen in our family? And they're like, oh, we totally see what you just did to us. Right? We're like, yes.
So we set it up and we prepare it that way. Then we say, okay, here's the rules we think that we should have. And sometimes we'll say, what do you guys think? Let's get some feedback. And usually when we've done it that way, they're usually like, yeah, you're right.
Or we have them offer. So we'll come up with our list and we'll say, what do you guys think we should do about this? And they make suggestions and usually come up with the suggestions we had come up with, which is pretty awesome. Give your kids a lot of credit. If they come up with the idea, they are way more likely to buy into it, right? That is powerhouse right there. Help your kids come up with the idea.
Especially if one of the children is a problem, if you make this a family thing, then you're addressing that child's problem without addressing
Pointing
it
to
the child.
Which makes them feel terrible.
Yeah. So then they think, oh, well, this is a whole family thing. Everyone's doing it. I'm involved. And then when they come to that point, so now I've set it up, right? maybe you're having the problems now. So then you take those steps to get to that point where you now set up these expectations that everyone knows about, everyone has agreed on. Sometimes if necessary, I've even made like little contracts, like Dennings do this. And in fact, I have a contract that we're going to do this. We're going to share the links. All my family systems and charts with contracts, internet contracts, device contracts, expectation, this is how Dennings do thing contracts, all of that we're going to share for free. I'll have some assignment, like this is how Dennings do things, and they sign it to agree. So then when it comes up later of, well, I don't want to, or you can't make me, I'm like, you agreed. And we all agreed that if you do that, you get these things, meaning you get to use the internet, you get to use your device, you get to do the things you want to do. If you don't do it, you don't get those things. So whether you decide you want to do this or not, that's your choice. I don't care. But you don't get to use the internet that I provide unless you do the things you agreed to do. Does that make sense?
And so that removes a bit of the power struggle of like, it's not me saying yes and you saying no. It's just like, hey, as a family, we kind of came up with some standards and everybody agreed because, you know, this is high quality. So we're just going to live by them. So it's okay. It's not about me. It's not about you. Like, this isn't a fight between me and you. It's like, we have a standard here. Let me hit a couple more things.
I just want to say real quick that.
No, let me say.
Crap.
Okay. Woo! My turn. All right. I'm going to give some common things though, because you guys have been working with tweens and teens and humans for 24 years now. I'm going to give you some doozies. All right. At 11, girls start questioning their identity. Sometimes it'll be 12 or 13. But all of your youth are going to go through an identity crisis. They're trying to figure out who they are. And they're starting to question things and they're comparing a lot. And so they're going to start feeling some insecurities. So we got to make tons of good deposits in there. And so make sure that they're feeling good about themselves. Ready? So I'm going to give some common denominators across the board.
I remember.
I'll come back to my common denominators.
I just wanted to make a quick point that Rona, that we make a very clear distinction in our family that as parents, there's certain things that we just provide for our children because that's our duty. Clothes, food, basic clothing, basic foods, and shelter. Everything else is a plus. It's a privilege that they get to earn, and they earn it by contributing to the family. That means cleaning, preparing meals, doing their schoolwork, like all of those other things. So
using devices, like this is huge.
Well, they don't earn it. They don't earn it they earn using the devices by doing those things. Yep, some of the privileges they get to earn are some of the food in our house is not allowed unless you've earned it, right? Like some, gourmet foods or something. Device usage, that's not an automatic. You earn that. And if you don't live up to the standards, we get to take it away because we own all the devices in our house. We've worked for them. We've paid for them. Those are ours. Internet usage. Friend time is earned. So this is one of the things that you have to set up in how your family system and your culture operates.
And do it very tactfully.
Yeah. Again, like we were talking about, you set it up beforehand, but you explain to them, is it fair, right? That I just provide everything for you and you have to do nothing for that? And you get all the benefits with none of the work?
And again, you got to teach them this, right? So you'd sit down and say, hey, so last week I worked 47 hours in my work and I made this money. And then this money went into pay rent here, which covers your head, and show them your bills. Say, we spent this much money on food and we spent this much on utilities and devices and internet and all this thing. And so I worked really hard and I earned this money and that money went to that. Should you just get to live off of what I do? And at about, 10, 11, 12 and up, they start going, oh, yeah. And we're like, that's cool. Like, we love you and we want to help you, but it's not a free ride anymore. It's a free ride for the 3-year-old, but it's not a free ride for the 11-year-old. and again, you're teaching this, right? All
Yeah, and
before
there's
this
levels,
point
there's
where they're
levels.
like, you can't make me, and you're right. You're at that point, once you've taught it effectively, you're like, you're right, but I don't have to feed you either, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because this is a deal. Like, I'm paying for the internet, and so yeah, if you don't want to help out, that's cool, but like, I'm gonna turn the internet off. Boom, hit the Wi-Fi button. Ka-chow! Like, I don't want to do that. Okay, that's cool. But like, if you don't want to help clean up the dishes, then I don't want to feed you, because there's no free ride here. This is a team, right? So that's the context of what she's talking about.
Okay, back to your.
Back to my things. Okay, common denominators. So if you got a kid that needs some healing, every child, write this down, you guys. Every child needs something to be excited about. So I ask, does your child have something they're really excited about? Like genuine, like a big dumb goal. If you've heard about our dumb goal, demanding, the acronym, demanding, unrealistic, meaningful, bold. You've heard about that. They've got to have something they're super excited about. Can I pause right here? I got an awesome question from a youth on Instagram here, and I want to answer it. What if you don't have a parent to help you figure yourself out? Thank you for asking. I was there. Gosh, I'm getting emotional. I've been there. And I was out on my own at 16, and I didn't have anybody to guide me. That's why I do what I do. So read lots of great books. Yeah, watch the video. So you're reading, you're listening to my podcast, watching the videos, read tons of great books. Shoot me messages. I'm happy to help. Okay. Those of you trying to do this on your own, I get it. Get it. Man, I love you guys. All right. Back to the thing. You gotta something to be excited about. Okay. Number 2, something to work hard on. Yet they balk it. They don't think they want to, but every human needs something to work on.
Well, sometimes we call this employment. Like even your 3 and 6-year-old, they need some sort of employment. They need something to do that keeps them busy, but that's not like busy work. It's like an actual,
like they get into play zone.
thing.
They get in this beautiful world, and it's really special. Like they've got to have something to work on. And that changes with little kids. Little kids might be working on playing and creating, right? Making messes might be part of their employment, and help them clean up the mess. But as they get bigger, they need things to work on. Everybody needs something to work on.
And that includes like real jobs around the house that make an actual difference in how the house stays clean and functions and all of that.
And eventually it might be building their own little side business, or preparing for a big goal, earning some money for a big trip. They've got to have something to work on. And then number 3, my friends, this one's critical. Hope you're all going to catch this one. If you're starting to have any kind of chronic tension or frustration or power struggles, I want you to make loads of emotional deposits. You see it as an emotional bank account, where you make deposits into that person's bank account. They need more time and attention, just total focused quality time and attention with you. This is a great time to start doing dates with your kiddos. Well, not right now because you can't leave your house, but like go to another part of the house, go out and back. But like do dates with your kids, like just you and them, just one-on-one focus time. They need more time with you. Often the bad behavior, it's the one thing that's driving you away. You're like, the last thing I want to do is spend more time with that kid. That's the most important thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kid needs time with you. And watch what happens. You start making big old humming deposits. Guess what happens to those arguments and the kickback? They go away.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden the kid's like, okay, Dad, I'll go do that. And you're like, what? What was that? Because you make the investments, right? So invest in the child. Man, invest in the child. Those are some powerhouse stuff there. Okay, more questions.
Yeah, there's a lot more here. So there's this question, but she actually adds to it below. So we'll get that down there.
Okay. Keep going. There weren't questions there. I saw those. Go. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. You guys keep the questions coming too. Keep going.
Did you do that one?
Keep going. There you go. Keep going. Keep going. Come on, I'm gonna have to start driving here. I'm gonna have to take the mouse from you.
Did a sugar fast.
Nice.
Only one chose to continue, like at church fellowships. He chose not to. Yeah, we've had that.
Church, man. Churches are like the worst place where they're killing you with sugar to try to get you to go to Jesus. Oh, miss that one. Got it? Question?
So, well, just comment kind of.
Okay.
Family meeting. Girls write out their chore list. My husband and I include it and handed it to one child. They didn't think it was fair. Right. That's a great illustration. So basically a whole family meeting and everyone writes out their chores, right? Of all their stuff. And then you hand it to one child. Here, you get to do everything. They're like, that's not fair. Well, so why is it fair for mom and dad to do everything? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the principle you want to.
Excellent point. Okay, another question. What if they don't know what they're excited about? How do you help them figure something out? Beautiful. I love this one. This is like my expertise here because everyone needs something to be excited about and big dreams and goals. Now, here's where many parents fail. Can I call you out here? It's not you guys. It's the other ones that should be here. But you can tell them. Tell them, say, hey, Greg told me to call you out. It's when the kid comes up with a big idea, the parent shoots it down.
Because it's not realistic.
Because, be realistic. I did this with a group of students. I'm like, hey, set a big goal. There's nothing that will help a child prepare for life than setting and achieving a huge goal.
That actually inspires them, that actually motivates them,
that
they
they're
actually
interested
get
about.
Excited about. They're excited about it. That right there is power. If you can have your kids excited about something and you don't shoot it down, there is power right there for your child to grow and become self-reliant and responsible and all those things you want. It comes right in that moment.
And they're like, hey, I want to do this. And you're like, that's crazy.
Is you're like,
be realistic.
Your own fears come out and you shoot down their goals. It's just how it is. And so not only have you passed on your own limiting beliefs, but you've stunted your child's opportunity for growth. When our kids come to us with a goal, I don't care how ridiculous it sounds. If they want to go to the moon, right, which I think would be dumb.
I think it would be awesome.
No, I would not want any of my kids going to the moon, okay?
It's going to happen. One of us is going to go.
I don't know.
And send pictures.
No matter what it is. I will support them 100% and tell them they can do it because one of two things will happen. One, I don't care how much I believe that this is ridiculous and they'll never achieve this goal. I still will tell them, you can do that. Go for it because one of two things will happen. One, they'll decide that they don't really want to do that and that was just an idea they had. Or two, they will
figure out a way to do it.
And they'll figure out a way to do it and growth happens right there. Real growth, not pretended growth, not, oh yeah, if you do this and do your chores every day, you're going to become a great adult. The real true growth happens in those crazy big scary things.
Rant C. This one is spontaneous rant C. Don't imagine that your kids are going to become hard workers because you have them do chores around the house. Are you kidding me? They're chores. And people are like, my kids know how to work hard. We do chores. Like, that's not hard work. Do you even know what hard work is? Sorry, that was rant C. Give your kids a big old humming goal. And we don't tell them usually they can do it. We say, how could you do it?
Yeah.
So this young lady was in one of my groups that I was inspiring them. And she's like, that she'd never traveled anywhere. And she says, I'm going to Europe. And she lived in this small little farming community. They'd never gone anywhere. She goes home just fired up. Mom and Dad, I'm going to save up money and we're going to Europe. They shot her down, told her how stupid her idea was. You'll never make enough money. You can't save up that much money. We've never been anywhere. You don't even have a passport. You can't go. And she came back to me in tears. And I'm like, okay, just quietly keep working towards your goal. You can do it. She tells her parents again, like, I'm going to do this. I'm really going to go after it. They go get their friend who is a travel agent to come persuade her that it can't be done. I just wanted to hug those parents really hard. And she came back to me in tears. I said, hold your goal, keep going. This girl went gangbusters. She told everybody that she was babysitting. She went and applied for jobs, told the local farmer she'd come milk cows in the morning. She hung up flyers at church in the town, around the grocery store. She's babysitting. You guys, she came back to me within a couple of months and already had $2,500 saved. 16-year-old girl. Okay. By the time she was ready to roll, I think she was around $4,000. And it was amazing. And so she had enough money to pay for herself and her mom to take a trip to Europe in 4 months. Don't shoot them down. Build them up, support them, help them. Just ask them, okay, cool. How could you do that? You want to go scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef? Whoa, that's big. How could you pull that off? Let them grow. This is real growth. This is real stuff, right? So the question was, if they don't know what they're excited about, keep asking. Say, well, what would you like to do? What would you like to see? Let's look at some maps. Let's open a book of 1,000 places to go see before you die. Let's get on Netflix and watch some documentaries about the coolest events around the world, or the 7 wonders of the world, or let's start exploring and start dreaming together.
Yeah, sometimes really the reason we don't have goals and our children don't have goals is because we haven't spent enough time dreaming.
Yep.
We haven't allowed ourselves to have time to dream about the things that we would want to do, to even think about the things that might get us excited. Sometimes I like to call this idea, I call it the mango principle, because before we ever started traveling, right, I thought I knew what my favorite fruit was. It was, I don't know, a cherry or something, which cherries are great. But we moved to Costa Rica and we lived in Latin America, well, all of Central America for like 5 years total. And that was the first time I'd ever had a real mango. Okay. And I realized that mango was my favorite fruit, but I didn't know that before then because I'd never been exposed to it. Sometimes we don't know what we like or what we want to do or what gets us excited because we haven't been exposed to enough things. The thing your kid is excited about might be something you've never even heard of yet. It might be something that you think would be stupid. It might be a lot of things, but we have to expose our kids to a lot of things, a lot of ideas, a lot of people doing different things and trying stuff. And like, there's just so much of that out there. If they don't get the exposure to it, if they never see other people pursuing their dreams and living with passion and purpose, they don't know what that looks like. Brian Tracey.
Yeah. He said the number one reason people will fail to become their best selves and really succeed in life is because they're never exposed to it.
They're never exposed to it being a possibility.
Which answers another question here. Somebody else said, well, what if their goals always seem to be centered around a computer or a screen, or their projects really don't have any purpose? I would say the same thing. Expose them to more purposeful things. And if they're set on screen stuff, I'll have youth come to me and I'll be like, what's your big goal? And they're like, I want to be one of those YouTube gamers that like makes millions to play video games. I'm like, okay, that's fascinating. Like, let's do some homework on that. What happens to your brain if you stare at a screen all day? Do you know? And then we start reading some books. We start doing some research. And you're like, does that lead to a really fulfilling, meaningful life where you're really making a difference in the world? Again, I do this tactfully, but you lead it out.
You've talked about the idea of, well, okay, yeah, they make lots of money playing video games on YouTube, but what's their life really like?
Yeah.
What are they like as a person? What is their life like? What
let's
kind of
get to know them.
do they have? What kind of
and you start looking at them,
are they having?
And I'll have these youth come back like, yeah, my kind of YouTube hero, like he doesn't have a life. And he's really struggling. He has a sweet car, but he kind of seems to be really miserable. You're like, yeah, what's the outcome? And like, you teach it tactfully, you expose them to people who are real heroes and living a heroic journey, not just making some money doing nothing. Right? That's not fulfilling. And when you can get that, I mean, be tactful about it. So do the mentoring there and guide them to the big goals that actually are fulfilling and meaningful to them. Good question. Okay, you guys keep them coming home.
This is an add-on here.
So when they don't follow through with their goals, then what? Kids become so discouraged that nothing matters anymore.
So part of that, I would say on one side, is that's just part of the journey. Mm-hmm. Not every goal that we think we want to accomplish do we actually accomplish. And this is true for adults. But the process of setting goals or getting excited about something and maybe pursuing it and failing, or just deciding that it doesn't matter to you as much, all of that is a part of the process. And it's critically important to helping you figure out what you do really like. I mean, it helps you figure out what you really, because achieving any goal that's worthwhile is a lot of work. It's not easy. It's going to be hard and you're going to fail. Like, that's just how it goes. But you grow in the process, and who you become through that process and who your child becomes through that process is the most valuable part. So in order to be willing to commit to that journey, you have to know you really want that thing. And one of the ways you figure out that you really want that thing is by figuring out what you don't want.
Well, and if you really want it, you'll start to embrace the suck, right? Part of it's just going to be miserable, and you're going to end up pushing through that. But
you figure that out by trying some things that you're like, you know what? This isn't worth it for me. The suck isn't worth this. Right. And so I'm going to give that up.
Something
so
else.
Part of it is just the journey. Okay. It doesn't mean they'll never achieve any goals. You just have to keep saying, okay, keep looking for what really lights your fire.
Love it. The other side of the coin might be, that's true. I love that. Fantastic. The other side of the coin might be they just bumped up against something that wasn't very fun or pleasant. It was the next step and it wasn't really enjoyable. And so I'll revisit it with them. It's like, do you still want to chase down this goal? Do you still want the reward? And help them mentally get past the barrier to the reward. Is this something you still really want? Yeah. And they're like, yes, but man, this barrier is so hard. And so I realize if they do still want it, but the barrier is stopping them, or the insecurity is stopping them, or their self-doubt, or their fear, or worry, or whatever it is that's stopping them, then I step in as the mentor. And now, okay, how can we get through this? How can we work on it? How can we break it into baby steps? How can I support you? How can I give you some hacks or some strategies? Are there some books we can read about this? Some TED Talks, some podcasts? Like, how can we get you through this barrier so you can still keep chasing down your goal, even though you're at a point right now that's really kind of frustrating? Yeah. Right? So you get them through that.
But ultimately, it still comes down to them figuring out if it really matters to them that much. And if it does, then yeah, you mentor them through the obstacles.
Okay, next. You guys, this is so good. So I had a question up there.
There's another one we missed too about self-development books.
Oh, did we miss that one? No, I think it's down below.
No, we passed it.
Are you sure?
Right there.
Right here. Boom. Okay. So there's 1,000 books to read, right? And I've read over that many, and I have a huge list of recommended books. So it's a lot of books. So the question is, how do you balance binge reading with fascinating about implementing strategies and changing behaviors, especially with parenting, and actually taking more time taking action rather than reading about it? For example, the other day I was reading Think and Grow Rich, and my wife commented that the book was written in the 1930s and there are more relevant books now.
But that one's a classic.
Oh, that is a classic.
And all the rest of those books have been based off of that one.
Yeah. So there are classics that are timeless. That's one of them. Keep reading that book. That thing is timeless. There are classics that are 2,000-3,000 years old. Keep reading them. They're epic. They're awesome. So yeah, read from people you trust, or like, what are the best books to read? And then so I'm constantly reading, Rachel's constantly reading. And so the question is like, well, how do you implement? How do you practice? How do you put into practice what you learn? And I think each of us has to find this balance, this kind of dance.
It's kind of a back and forth.
You'll
read. Look at this.
Look at a sway here. It's kind of like this. Where you find this balance of, I'm practicing it. I find, and I'd love to hear what you say, I find that continuing to read with this daily flow, it helps me take action. It helps reminds me of the things I need to work on and I want to do. Having a steady flow of input keeps me motivated, keeps me inspired, keeps me on my A game.
Which is why we make daily reading a part of our routine. We both read during our morning routine, and then we both read usually
during the day
evening.
And in the evening again. And our kids do the same. So they're just crushing through books. Now, if you're coming up into a technical book that's saying you need to build out this X system, which Rachel's done this, like with getting things done, and organizing your life or going through your stuff, that's a book you might slow way down. And that one specific book might take you 3 months to get through, because you'll read a chapter and then you'll work on it. And then you'll read a chapter and then you'll go do that. And so if it's a slow, strategic book where you're actually implementing specific practices or strategies, that one will be slower to go through. But then you'd pick up, it's actually really healthy to be reading 3 or 4 books at a time.
In different genres.
Different genres. And just have the steady consumption of really great stuff, you guys.
I personally, if I'm reading something and I feel like taking action, I take action.
Immediately.
And then I keep reading.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, sometimes I'll be taking a lot of action and I'll feel this feeling. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's almost like I don't know what to do next, or I'm kind of stuck, or something like that. Always the solution for me is reading more stuff.
Get into
so
another
I
book.
kind of go back and forth between those two things, and just it's almost like it's moving me forward like that, of reading, applying, reading, applying, reading, applying. There's no perfect answer. It's going to depend on
your journey.
Yeah.
But keep reading, keep applying.
Thing,
it's beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes that might be I'm reading and applying in one thing, like maybe business. And sometimes maybe I'm reading health and applying that. And maybe I'm not reading in business, or maybe I'm doing both. Like it just really depends on what you're trying to do, what you are, your goals, your dreams.
Yeah.
You just have to fill it out.
Comment here on Instagram. You're right. Reading is sacred. Man, it is sacred. Make it a priority, you guys. Read like crazy. Make that just a part of who you are and how you do life. Read and listen to books all the time. Just constant consumption.
And we call it bibliotherapy. And Greg has a whole audio program on it, because bibliotherapy is a word that literally means
it's therapy from books. Like it's just helping you through all your stuff.
Books. So it's you're providing therapy for your life through books, through reading. And for us, that means it is the source of our growth. It's the source of leveling up. It's the source of, just that forward motion.
And Travis is here with us today. He is wrapping up his 20th book this year. 20 books since January.
Nice.
Booyah! So yeah, I'll comment on here. Well, I always thought it was crazy to be reading 4 or 5 books at a time. And I've studied this. I've studied all kinds of different books about it. And there's an excellent book called Turn the Page. It's a book about reading. And he recommends specifically 4 to 5 books at a time. It actually activates your mind and different genres. It's really powerful.
Helps you to make connections in different ways, more abstractly and stuff that you don't make otherwise by only reading in one genre.
Okay, more questions. Here we go. So general effort and mentality is that of a big picture and depositing lots of love and patience. That is being sorely tested by a spitfire 5-year-old who has been angry since he was old enough to talk. So how might you help and handle the very young, very angry soul that just won't be reasoned with? Excellent, beautiful question. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing it's a little boy.
Yeah, it's a boy.
Oh,
he was old.
Yep, yep. So it's a little boy. Boys have a need to fight for something, as do men. So moms, your little boys and your husbands have a need as men to fight for something. It's just in us. We need to fight for something, and we need some adventure, right? We need those things. So some boys are just, they got a battle in them, and we direct that battle towards appropriate things. With a little guy that can't be reasoned with, right? Because they're not too reasonable there. A lot of diplomacy can work, but I'm going to look first thing at foods, very first thing at foods. And I know that doesn't sound reasonable, but like a lot of the science now is saying some food, it doesn't seem like, oh, they've always been angry. As soon as they can talk, he's angry. There may be a food reaction there that's affecting the brain. And literally there are parts of our brain that make us angry. And if that part of the brain is not getting the right kind of food or the right kind of sleep or too much media, because media, screen time for little kids, it actually slows the blood flow to their brains. And when you have low blood flow to your most important organ, things don't function properly and you have behavioral stuff. And so I would look at all the food stuff and make adjustments there. I would look at screen time, sleep time. I would look at schedules. I would start from ground zero and rebuild a whole new system that works for this little guy until you can get things adjusted. They start to settle. And if that doesn't work, I would literally go to one of
with that.
What?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I would go
I don't know
to
what you're saying.
eventually, if that doesn't clear it out and it's still an issue, I literally would take that child and go have a brain scan done at one of Dr. Amen's offices. And they're going to do a full brain scan and they can take pictures of the brain. He said he had this young man that just, and this was extreme, way beyond your case. This little boy would just attack anyone. He was on a baseball field and just started attacking this little girl with a bat. And just, I mean, crazy behavioral stuff. And they were going to medicate him and institutionalize him. And luckily it was this doctor's nephew. And he says, whoa, let me take a brain scan. They did a quick brain scan and they found a little cyst. They found a cyst in there and it was kind of bulging into the area that made him angry and mean. They went in, they removed the cyst. Boom, behavior is gone. So, I mean, you start at a base level. I'm giving you guys tons of big stuff here. You start at a base level for all your behavioral stuff and check on food. They found this one guy like severe, crazy suicidal depression. And he had been to all the medications and all the therapy for years, had been to all this stuff. He finally, as a last hope, went to this clinical office. And they said, the very first thing we're going to do is remove all the food from your diet and start at ground zero. You may eat chicken. Now we're going to introduce one thing at a time. And they started going and immediately he's like, I feel fantastic. Like, I don't feel depressed. I don't feel suicidal. I don't feel angry. Like, I feel amazing. And they said, okay, we're going to slowly introduce things. They reintroduced gluten. Everything cool. They reintroduced dairy. Everything cool. They reintroduced corn.
Now this is different for every person.
Yeah, it's different for every person. It's not just corn.
Like
I'm not slamming corn here. For this specific guy, when he got any corn back in his diet, he said, I had some corn today and there's kids listening, so I won't tell you the vivid image, but he wanted to take his own life. And they're like, there it is. It's corn. So they removed all corn from this man. It sounds nuts, but it's like legit.
The research now is they're doing tons and tons of brain scans, right? And this one doctor, Dr. Amen especially, he says, for years we've been trying to do this counseling and psychotherapy and all this stuff. And he's like, no other medical profession will try to treat an organ without actually taking a look at what's going on. He's like, except for like therapists and counselors. They're trying to provide counseling. This might be too deep for this, but anyways, they're trying to provide counseling and they're not actually looking at the brain. He's like, when we look at the brain through these brain scans that they do now, we can see actually what's going on. And then that helps us to fix it. We can see exactly where things aren't working. And the number one impactor on the brain with everything we do is food. And we used to be so skeptical of this for
years. Like, how can your brain affect your emotions?
How can food have that much impact on any of that? So that's one side of it. The other is, I thought you were going to mention it, is especially with boys, because they have this kind of need, and some of them more than others, right? Some boys are more docile. They just almost have this need to just be super active and maybe even violent and just like
get that kid a boxing bag.
He just might need to be more active and
just
do more
let him break
activities where he's allowed to hit stuff and break stuff and it's okay. Right?
Go find a dumpster where they're building a house, right? And get the wood that they have left over and build something and let him destroy it. Give the kid a hammer and just let him get it out every day. Like some of you men, you'll know what I'm talking about. You go out and split wood when you're angry and then you're like, man, I feel fantastic, right? Sometimes you got to break something and scream and yell and barbecue, right? You just got to do some man stuff sometimes.
So that, is another thing to look at. But ultimately, I think I would say this. I think I can say this confidently. No matter what, there is probably something there that needs to be switched or tweaked or addressed and healed in some way.
Yep.
And so then the question is just figuring out what that is.
Yeah. Love it. You guys, good stuff, man. There's so many questions.
Yes.
This is going to go for the next 14 hours. Buckle up. No, I was kidding. We're going to try to hit as many as we can. What about dreaming with your spouse? I feel like we're on unequal dreams, and we've experienced this now for like 12 years. We get this very common question. Couples come to us and say, what if we have different dreams? Great. Fantastic. Support each other's dreams. I love doing big, crazy, epic stuff, and she's not there yet. And so she'll say, okay, go do it. And I'll run off, have an adventure, and come back. And then she'll want to do something. I'll be like, don't leave me. And she goes and spends time doing her thing. And go ahead.
Well, and I actually I shared this with someone the other day. Sometimes you may have a dream that's totally different, and your spouse may not be on board at all. And that's okay. My advice is to begin pursuing it anyways, because like your child, one, you'll figure out you really don't want it that much anyways, or two, you're going to grow and become a better person by pursuing it. And then somewhere along the way, what usually happens if your relationship is, not totally dysfunctional, your spouse will start to see why this is a good thing, and they'll start to get on board. Even if at first and this has happened to both of us. Like there's been, because sometimes you're pursuing something that affects both of you, but only one of them wants it at the moment. And if I pursue it and this isn't just pursuing something selfishly or, because, whatever. This is pursuing something that I feel passionate about and I feel strongly that will benefit our family or is going to be a good thing or whatever it is. Same vice versa. If we move forward on that, if it's meant to be, so to say, it's going to happen. And the other spouse is going to see that, yeah, this is actually a good thing.
Yeah, it cannot be negative on the family. It can't harm the family. But if it's something that just lights her up, even though I'm not interested, I want to support her because I want her to be lit up. The world and your family needs people that are lit up. That's special. Okay, man, great stuff here. Would you be willing to share what you do with screen time in your family and cell phones? So for our children, none of our children are allowed to own a cell phone. It's not theirs. Technology is a tool for responsible people. That's what we teach them. Technology is a tool for responsible people. You may use it as a privilege after you've done the more important things. You get your stuff done. You live your life in order. You're being a responsible person.
Things you're supposed to do.
Then you get to use it for good things. You're not going to be sitting around playing video games on it.
And we've always had the rule that you have to have a purpose for getting on a device. None of us in the family, this includes Greg and I, this includes all of our kids, none of us get on a device just because. If we don't have a good reason for getting on, like, oh, I'm going to grow my Instagram account, or I'm going to watch a video about drawing so I can do drawing, or whatever it is. Like there has to be a specific purpose and a specific reason for getting on. So that's the expectation we set up. Now
some of you parents are busted right there. Ha! Gotcha. You are sitting in bed at night scrolling on Wastagram. What'd you do? Hurt yourself?
Just made me stab myself in the eye.
But you guys know, some of you are busted. If you don't have a purpose, get off that thing, man. You got things to do. And okay, rant D. Ready? I got to throw this in there. Every once in a while, I got to throw in a rant. Here you go. Rant D. If you don't live the message, you suck as the messenger. Come on, man. If you don't live the message, you suck as the messenger. And we're sitting here telling our kids to live purposely, to chase their dreams, to just, go get it, kids. Don't waste your time on the screens. And we're sitting there, even if they don't know it, they don't see it, like it comes out, man. The energy's there. If you're spending hours in your bed at night, just wasting your life away on a screen, call me. I got something to say to you. If you're sitting there scrolling, send me a message. Like you guys, it'll take the wind out of your message. So live the message. Be deliberate. Be intentional.
Now
Step it up a bit.
That being said, we do have a lot of screens in our family because we do online education. They do Khan Academy and quill.org for grammar and all these different things. So they have to be using them. Now, I have an app that controls when the internet comes on, and I can also turn it off at any time, and it also shuts it off for bedtime. So it shuts off at like, I don't know, 8 o'clock or something.
Yeah, 7:30 or 8.
Yeah.
All of them go down.
So I know that that's fine. And then it doesn't turn on until 10 o'clock, 9 or 10 o'clock, although I can turn it on earlier if they need it specifically. So that's one way of just making sure, you know, the certain bookends of the day are covered. Then the other thing is, like we've talked about, yeah, they have to earn the usage. And then if they misuse it, then they lose the privilege. We've kind of taken this strategy because ultimately you want your children to be capable of having a device and owning a device and be able to make good choices on it, right? That's the goal. So we've kind of taken this approach over the years, and with some kids, they need it more than others, of, I don't know, what do we call this? The rope or whatever. It's this idea that, say you have a rope on your kids, right? Around their neck. Just kidding. It's not around their neck. You've got this rope on them and you let it out a little bit. And if they do good, say the device, you let them have the device, you let it out and they make good choices and they're not, you know, using it inappropriately or spending too much time on it, you let it out a little bit more and you keep allowing them to have a little more freedom and a little more freedom. And you can do this with anything. It doesn't have to be just devices. But then if they make a poor choice, like they download Minecraft and they spend 11 hours playing it, which has happened in our history, 11 hours in a week.
Oh,
yeah.
In a week.
Not in a day.
I've had clients come to me and they're like, my son plays video games for 12 hours a day. What should I do about that? And I'm like, remove the problem. Not the kid, the problem.
So then we pull it back in. And maybe that means more downtime on their phone or their device. Maybe it means
they need to do it fast.
They take a device fast.
Yeah, do a media fast.
We've
for a
done
long time.
that where a certain child has not kept up the agreements and they did a device fast for a week or 2 or a month. Whatever is needed to kind of reset things. And then we try again. And here we go, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And then we keep letting it out until they have more and more freedom and more autonomy, as long as they keep proving that they're earning that and they're making good decisions. So that's basically
powerful principle, right?
And that ratchets up at different ages. Like our 9-year-old doesn't have a phone, device of his own to use. He has a computer that he can use for his studies, but
yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, let's go bullet here. Faster answers.
Sorry.
Okay, how do we expose them to things if we don't even know they exist? Ooh,
yes.
Awesome question. I would use Netflix. This is where Netflix or YouTube can be powerhouse, and you just start searching for documentaries, start exploring places around the world, start using Google to just explore stuff, start using Google Maps and watch videos and pictures and just start exposing yourself every day to new things.
This can be a place where, scrolling on the internet is a good thing, but again, it's intentional. You have a purpose for doing it.
We're getting on.
I want to see what's out there in the world, right? And so you're doing it for that purpose, and give yourself a limit or whatever,
What if, this is another question. What if failing at goals is chronic? So your kid's just constantly failing, it's chronic. That can happen. It can happen to adults. It can happen to kids. We can just get in this pattern. We set it, fail, set it, fail, set it, fail, and we just get in that routine. I would stop and say with a child, let's pick a goal, and we're seeing this through to the end. I'm taking responsibility, ownership. You're taking responsibility, ownership. Pick a goal that you are committed to, integrity on the line. Come hell or high water, as the old statement is, this thing gets done. And I'm going to personally mentor and take ownership of walking this kid through to success and say, there, you achieved it, you finished it, you did it, we hit this thing. And you start building small successes, so we create a new pattern of, I did it. I saw something through the end, and it starts small. And so you start celebrating instead of this chronic pattern of failure.
Plus, there's, I think, something important to consider. Failure is normal, but there's almost 2 things there. Either one, you fail, meaning you've fallen down, you messed up, you mistook how much work it was going to take. That's one side of it. there's never really real failure there as long as you keep getting up and keep going. The other side of failure is you just gave up. If
quitting.
you just gave up, that's not failing, that's quitting. So if there's
there's
a chronic history of quitting, that's different.
Yep.
If the failing is happening, just keep getting up and just keep going. Ultimately, you'll reach the goal as long as you keep doing that.
Great. Another great question here. How do you help a teen who flies into angry tirades and outbursts often, such as when they lose a game of ping pong against their brother? Fantastic. Great question, right? And a lot of that is because there's, again, some kind of underlying issue. And they're not learning to process their emotions. They're losing perspective. And so you start doing the coaching and gently walk through as, why are you so angry? I would take that. I would do some mentoring when the kid's cool.
Maybe not. Yeah, I was going to say not necessarily in that moment. That's not always the best time. But yeah, often when there's bursts of anger in a parent or a child, very often what's happening is that there are unprocessed emotions. So maybe there's fear, worry,
insecurity,
concern.
If I lose, that makes me feel worthless.
And maybe it's very often it's been building. So it's not usually the ping pong game that's the issue. It's building insecurity that just keeps building. And the ping pong game is the final straw that proves I'm worthless as a human being. It's usually deeper than that. And as long as those keep building, without the processing and, talking through it, or maybe they just need to write about it. We have one child who will process emotions by writing, journaling. We have another that will just come and talk to me. So it depends.
And another that will go for a bike ride or run. Or
punch a punching bag. You have to teach their children, though, that this is something that has to be done. All of us have to process our emotions. And if we don't process them, we bury them or we keep pushing them down, and eventually they will come out. And very often it comes out in some sort of angry outburst over something small. So that is the real underlying issue of something like that, is that there are emotions that are not being processed.
You got to teach them how to get it up and remove it, not get it up, push it down, get it up, push it down, like get it up and get rid of it. And then have some tools so when they start feeling angry again, like literally give them new tools. So you're going to get in what's called a habit cycle. And there's a cue, which is losing something. There's an explosion. And then there's this reward. They get a reward from exploding, actually. It's weird. But you just say, when you start feeling angry, we have to have a new thing. So if you lose whenever, and you sit down with the kids, say, when is it you get really angry? And you write out these things, say, okay, when you start to feel angry and you want to have these outbursts, what can you do instead? And they're like, I can do push-ups.
We've had our kids go kick a punching bag, or sometimes even wrestle with Greg, right? Because that's a release for them to just wrestle with him. Or
you've got to have a new cue. You got to have something else turn
to.
And so then they start processing it, and then over time, you just start seeing the behavior. It starts going way, way down because they're processing it. Do you spend a certain amount of time reading each day? Man, as much as we can. Rachel and I try to get up early and spend. Yeah, you get magic moments with seven kids and
more, and some days less.
I try to spend at least an hour a day.
I mean, at a bare minimum, 15 minutes. If I can't do more than that, at least I try to do 15 minutes a day.
Okay. Love this. Thank you for inspiring me with the books. For women only and for men only is Changing Our Marriage. Yeah. You're welcome for that recommendation. Love it. Okay, man, we're hitting
captivating and
so good. And wild at heart. Where's the list of your books? I will share it with you guys. I got it on a Google Doc.
Won't we eat much of anything? Was that related to the?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, thanks, Joy. Yeah, I love those. Oh, I have Dr. Eamon's books right here. Another one called The Brain Warrior's Way is an excellent book. Rachel's reading that right now. We just got it. Yeah, Dr. Eamon has tons of awesome YouTube videos, and great speeches, and videos and great interviews. Okay, sweet. All this stuff. I'm trying to blah, 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 blah.
Do your kids have a phone that's assigned to them, or do they share? They're kind of assigned in a way. I mean, technically, they're all ours.
I literally remind them every day, not yours. Not yours.
But they each kind of have a device that's for mostly their usage.
So we got asked, do your kids never play video games then at all?
So
this might not be a very popular answer.
We have experimented with playing video games.
Well,
we have.
Only with Minecraft.
It was mostly Minecraft.
And yes, I did not pronounce that wrong.
No, we have experimented with it. Fortunately, maybe for us, we have one child in particular that I call it an addictive personality, because I think if he left to unguided, he could be very addicted to a lot of things. And at a young age, he showed, which Dr. Amen talks about in his book, which I found fascinating, that I'm reading now. He could not just quit. Like, I've got some kids, they could play a video game for, 10 minutes and then they'd be fine, and no big deal. And some kids are like that. We have this one kid who just could not stop. And every time I tried to make him stop, it just became an issue. So there are kids that are more like that. And partly because of that reason, we experimented with playing, and we had a period of time where we allowed them to play, but it just ultimately didn't go well. And besides that, I saw an overall reduction in creativity in all of my kids.
And
previous to that,
active behavior. They wouldn't go outside anymore. They wouldn't be creative. They wouldn't do their own creative stuff.
My kids are super creative with making up games, doing clay, playing,
building stuff,
imaginative play, and all this kind of stuff. And when we allowed Minecraft in our family, and this was several years ago, all of that decreased. And all they wanted to do, all they thought about was the next time they got to
consume their life, which is what we see across the board with youth.
And it was interesting because they would even come to me crying, telling me that, Mom, we used to want to do other stuff, and now all I want to do is play Minecraft. And they cried to me about it. So over time, we just decided to eliminate it. And they all eventually agreed that that was good. Now, we did have a period of time where they actually were sneaking it. And so then that was a whole nother thing, a learning process that we went through where we discussed it. And again, it's not that the Minecraft itself was necessarily so bad, but it was the process of sneaking something you knew you weren't supposed to be doing that was turned out being a very positive learning experience for them. So it was a whole process of going through that, but ultimately they decided, that's not something we're going to do, because really I want to do all these other things. They're to the maturity point now at this point where they can think about that and make those conclusions that there are other things I want to do. And there's things I can't do or don't have time to do because I was devoting it to playing a video game. And for us, that's kind of what it comes down to. We do, we're the crazy level here, right? And we're constantly talking to our children about this. What is the mission you're going to be living? What is what are you going to be adding to the world? What business are you going to be creating? What are you contributing? So we're always talking about that.
How are you setting yourself up to seriously win in life?
Yeah. And when we have those conversations, they know, they're like, there's just not time I can't get really good at art or the guitar or all these other things if I'm spending time doing that. Now, all of that being said, there's two of our kids that are interested in like engineering and stuff like that. And they do actually do Sim City, which is like not the Sims. There's another one that's the Sims. It's like the life. I don't know what it is. It's the avatars. This is the one where you're actually building
your engineering stuff. You're building out stuff.
We have two kids that like that,
because they're real mathematical.
Yeah.
One more thing. I'll just give a big, huge warning here. A lot of youth and parents come to me to help with addiction recovery, right? Because of the coaching I do. And I noticed a pattern about 10 years ago. They started coming to me and I asked this young man, well, how did you get addicted to pornography? And he says, well, it started, I was addicted to video games. And then when I got older, I just switched. My addiction went from video games to porn. And I was like, what video game? And it was Minecraft. And I was like, that's interesting. And so then I started asking after that, what were you addicted to before? Video games, video games, video games. Almost without exception, every young man that's come to me with a severe porn addiction was first addicted to video games. And then when they got old enough, they just switched to pornography. It was just an easy transition because the same thing is happening mentally, but now they're an adolescent and they're interested in girls. Boop, there's just a switch. And when I discovered that pattern over years with lots and lots of young men, I was like, okay, here's one more reason. No go. You get in those addictions and it literally shapes the way your brain forms.
Yeah. When you look at the science and you look at the brain science behind it all, ultimately, pretty much every sort of addiction or anything like that does the same thing in the brain. It's all about increasing the dopamine hits, right? And the more dopamine that's being fired, the more your brain wants more of that. It's the same with hard drugs as it is with sugar, as same with video games. Like, this is the brain science behind it. It's literally almost firing the same things. So once you pick up on those addictions, so to say, whatever it is, it just makes it that much more difficult to refrain from anything that's addictive, if that makes sense at all.
This is where we want to keep everything in control and developing our brains in a good, healthy, rounded way. There's the book list, you guys. I know some of you got to take off now, and there's a book list I wanted to share on there in case you need it.
Oh, and we were going to share the family charts and stuff.
Oh yeah, the family charts. Woohoo! So those who are in talk for me, honey.
The coaching?
Yes, those are the coaching. You have access already. Those of you who are visiting with us, this is, there we go, boom. And this is an extra awesome thing. We're giving away for a limited time. We're giving away full access, you guys. Oh, somebody mentioned this earlier. The master list of must-know adult skills is epic. It is awesome. And then that is all the charts right there. All the charts, family charts, systems, schedules. It's all in there. Contracts. You can hang this stuff around your house, download it, print it out. Rachel's done hundreds of hours of work in there to help your families get organized and scheduled. So, and feel free to share that too, you guys. Go ahead and share it with people. You just got to sign up, create a little account, and then you can use it. It is powerhouse to just have your whole family life dialed in. All right. Woo!
There's some more. We can keep answering questions.
I thought we got them all.
I'm not sure. Oh, do you play any video games? Do you play video games? Greg?
Nope. I think they were asking for the family. Oh, do we incorporate board games? Somebody asked. Yeah, absolutely. Board games are fantastic.
Let's see. Oh, how do you teach kids to process? Did we answer that enough, or do we want more about that? Teaching kids to process emotions.
We're willing to stay, you guys. I know some of you got to sneak out, roll off, but we're willing to stay and answer questions. We're just hanging out.
One child that wants more privileges so they can be responsible. They don't understand why privileges have to be earned little by little.
That's right. Okay. You might give that child, if some of your kids are more responsible than others, maybe give them more responsibility. If they want more privileges, let it go. See if they can handle it. And you'll have some kids, we have some kids that they can just handle so much responsibility. They get way more privileges, and we just explain, like, they're very responsible, so they get more privileges, and you can try it as quickly as they're willing to gain responsibility.
Idea, a little bit. Okay, maybe that was it then. Yep. What app do you use to control the internet? So for mine, we use Comcast Xfinity, and they have an app that can control it. I know Disney Circle has a device. I think you have to buy the device, and then there's an app that can turn off the internet. Someone says they use Net Nanny. That's great. But yeah, there's stuff out there. Is the Life Planner included in the All Access Pass? Yes, it is. What's your favorite board game?
Catan. They love Catan.
They play
Carcassonne.
Carcassonne.
We love was it Rich Dad Poor Dad one? What's that one?
Yeah, but we don't have it. So.
That's a great one though. You guys, are we going to talk about the 28-day challenge?
Oh my gosh!
Oh yes, thank you.
Okay. 28-day challenge.
Jeez, there's so many great questions we forgot.
Okay, so yeah, now we will do we'll go into the 28-day challenge here.
Starts on Sunday. So we go the first Sunday of each month.
So every month we're doing a 28-day challenge. If you don't know anything about this, it's for members of our Extraordinary Family Life group coaching. And every month has a different theme. So the January was you, meaning it's all about you. February was marriage. Last month was March. That was parenting. And then this month it's going to be family culture.
All about family, baby.
Yes. So.
And this is a tracker. So we'll just introduce it quickly, you guys. We'll send out an email and stuff for everyone's in. Those of you who have not joined us, join us. So you set up a tracker and you're tracking all your own goals, the things you want to work on. It really just track it and we follow along. We're helping each other, supporting each other. We have a private Facebook group where we can share and ask questions, help hold accountable. And then I send out a video almost every day or an email where we just give you tools and strategies, little things you work on. I try to keep them short. Sometimes I get long-winded in there telling you good stuff. I'm trying to keep them shorter so they're easy to consume. And basically, we're going to go through these little things. And again, every day we can make these little tweaks. We can take all these baby steps.
This is kind of funny because I was going to say, if there is a baby step strategy, this is it. If there's a way, because ultimately when you are leveling up, to make it long-term, right? Like so that you actually change long-term rather than just taking crazy action and then you go back to your old ways, right? Which none of us really wants. This is how you do that. And this is simply, the idea of making and keeping
small commitments,
daily small commitments to yourself. Because when you want to change something about yourself, when you want to become more, whatever, patient or fit or whatever it is, read more books, it doesn't happen all at once. It is The Slight Edge. If you haven't read that book, that's an amazing book, The Slight Edge. That's where the baby steps come in. You can change a lot of things. You can go gung-ho, but ultimately it comes down to consistent daily action. And it's when we try to do it all at once in like a day or a week, and then we run out of energy, that we run into the problems. But if we take daily consistent action, which is essentially what we do, we break everything, all of our goals down into the daily regular actions, that's where we see the progress and the growth. So this is the baby steps right here.
Yeah.
Despite everything you said.
You're just keep commitments every day. It's awesome. Allison says, I have it in my high performance planner so I can see it every morning. Yeah. Scroll back. There was something else.
There's another question.
Oh yeah. So my husband loves video games.
Starts Sunday.
It starts on Sunday. So 28-day challenge starts on Sunday.
The reason we have it is 28 days and we do give prizes and we're going to be announcing, we're kind of behind. Corona got us a little bit behind here. We're going to be announcing February and March winners in the Facebook group. And and then March.
So if you're here watching this and you're not in the 28-day challenge, get in on this awesomeness. It is transformational.
And it is part of the All Access Pass too. So.
And it's part of the monthly coaching where you get access to all the previous recordings. You get all kinds of awesome stuff. All right, I want to answer this question about my husband loves video games. So he created a culture where my sons love them too. How do I help him get on board with reducing and eliminating them? Help him and your boys and whoever else is in it get a bigger vision. Something so big, so exciting, so audacious, so fulfilling that they literally don't have time for it anymore. Men and boys need something to fight for and some adventure and a beauty to win, which is you, the wife. But they need adventure and they need something to fight for. Most men don't have something to fight for and they don't have enough adventure. And so they assuage it. And this is all happening unconsciously.
Yeah.
They assuage it with addiction, with video games, because they can get in there and they can fight and they can get to the next level.
This is literally the science on it. That a lot of reasons that people play video games is because it's fulfilling this need that's not a psychological need that's not being fulfilled.
But it's a pseudo fulfillment. It's a fake. It's a replacement. And so it's a
fraud.
All
of us want adventure. All of us want to live this hero's journey. And a video game fulfills that because we're not finding it in our actual lives.
But it's in a totally fake way, and it messes with your head, and it messes with a lot of stuff. So most men will turn to, and women will do it in a way, turning to social media or whatever. Men will turn to sports and just watching sports because they don't play and they don't have something they're working on. They have a big dream they're chasing. They turn to video games because they fight. They want to get these levels. They get a little dopamine hit. They'll even turn to pornography as some kind of weird adventure there. And in fact, even some men will even commit adultery because it's adventurous. And it's crazy. I get it. It's crazy. But we have to have some better way to fulfill this. So that's my answer is you got to get
a replacement,
big dumb goal. You've got to have something that's so big and so exciting that goes away. And I do this with my coaching clients. So go ahead. And I'll tell a story.
I just wanted to real quick say this is the case with anything you're trying to eliminate from your life that's not a positive, whether that's sugar, food, junk food, video games, whatever it is. You have to find a replacement, because the reason it's there is because there's an unfulfilled need. Yep. There's something that's not being met that this video game or the food or whatever is fulfilling that need. So you have to find the legit, authentic, real replacement.
And so you and your sons and your husband should read the book Wild at Heart. Excellent book. And then get them into something. So I did this with a coaching client. He was really into TV, really into video games. And we started coaching. It wasn't immediate, but we walked through this what's your big dream? What are your big goals? Give me some big, dumb goals. Give me something you really want to work on. Let's get your life in order. And at first it was no, this is great. I'm happy I get to play. And it's the way we bond and connect. And we walked through it are you really bonding? Are you really connecting?
Weeks,
and eventually it was well, no. And is this fulfilling you? Are you feeling like a man? Are you feeling just alive? Well, no. I'm just kind of assuaging the pain. I'm just kind of filling the time. I'm just kind of, it's just what I do to release tension or stress, because he didn't have an effective way to deal with stress, right? He wasn't chasing down a goal. And so it's just something you do to pass the time. So my recommendation is get excited about something big. Help him dream, and don't you dare be too intimidated when he comes up with a big dream. He wants to go on an African safari. Buckle up. Say, okay, husband, how can you do that? How can you start saving for this safari? What are you going to do? And he's like, I got to work more. Cool. That's less time in front of that dadgum screen. I'm going to do a side business with the boys. We're going to mow lawns together. We're going to go out and hustle together to save up for our African safari. Sweet. Why don't you sell the video game machine and make your first deposit into the saving account? Right? But there's got to be something real and tangible that's better.
Because when we have
I gotta stop. Stuff, Carolyn, that was awesome. The balking child in the back. That was epic. Caught on camera. Loved it.
When we have the real stuff in our life, then we don't have a need for the fake. We don't have a need for the fillers. So that's the real key to any of the stuff that's happening in our families. We have to find the real stuff, the real deal. And that's where the growth happens. That's where the bonding happens. That's where the magic happens. It's all right there. It's harder. It costs more money sometimes.
It's better.
But it's
infinitely better. So now our challenge is go through your life and find the fake stuff. Find the charlatans that have snuck into your life. Find these pseudo replacements. What's come into our life that's not real. And we begin replacing it with the real. Right? And we all look where we've kind of we're entertaining ourselves to death. We're living in bread and circuses. Right? And the panem and circenses. If you guys don't know about that, read about that stuff. It's awesome. But we're all living in these bread and circuses, and we're entertaining ourselves to death. And it's just a fake living. And so we want to get back into the real thing. Get back to the
Even
real
if
thing.
we are stuck at home.
No, I keep telling people, I'm like, if they don't open up the borders soon, I'm going to start sneaking across borders. It's going to be a lot of great content for a book or a vlog or something, sneaking into countries.
You're only half joking.
I'm only half joking because it would be an epic adventure. Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay. What is contest referring to with full access? So, there's a the only.
So the contest is for the 28-day challenge.
So those who just crush it in the 28-day challenge, we hand out some awards.
You write down whatever the things are you want to work on. Say, I'm going to read for 20 minutes in the morning, or I'm going to exercise for 30 minutes, whatever your personal goals are. They could be related to what our challenge is about, which would be family culture. Maybe we're going to have family reading time every night, or whatever. You come up with these things. You write them down on here. You track them. You can't see this paper because it's too bright. You track them, and then you turn them in every week. So it goes for 4 weeks, 28 days, and you turn it in every week, and the person who
just nails it,
does the most and gets the most checks, then they have a chance to win first, second, or third prize. First prize is one-on-one coaching session with Greg or I. You get to choose. Second prize is something. It's a course, one of our courses or something. I don't remember. And then
we'll
third
send
prize,
you a selfie picture
I think
of
it's
us.
a month free. Yeah, you get a selfie of us. Oh gosh. Second prize, I think, is a month free membership to the group coaching, and then third prize is one of our products. So,
woo! Okay,
yeah.
You guys go back to your families. We're gonna go to ours. Have a wonderful evening. Do great things. Yeah, go read a great book with your kiddos. Love on them all. Let me give you a quick challenge right now. Go connect with your family right now. Some of you need to go do some serious smooching with your spouse right now. Like, turn this thing off.
I thought you were going to say smooching with your kids. I'm like,
not with your kids.
Cuddling.
That's weird.
Cuddling.
Smooch with your spouse. Cuddle with your kids. Go connect. Like, really connect. Right? Okay. Love you guys. You're the best. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being awesome parents. Go rock it. Go rock it and make it happen.